Charlotte has always been led by newcomers.
Well, Charlotte is one of the fastest growing cities in America, and every year thousands of people move here and they look for an opportunity. But if you really want to plug into the city, you first have to understand the story behind it. And today we're exploring how Charlotte's past has shaped the city that we see today. I want to welcome you into Local Roots. I'm Alicia Barnes, and I am joined by two amazing guests today. First, we have Dr. Tom Hanchett with History South, a very regular here on Local Roots. Dr. Hanchett, thank you so much for being here. We
Good
also
to be
have,
here.
yes, we also have another special guest, Elizabeth Nye McKee, and you are the executive director of Leadership Charlotte.
That is correct.
And we're going to get into that because that is a very, very great way to plug into Charlotte and the community, especially when you have a community effort that you want to be able to learn not only leadership, but also give back at the same time.
Absolutely.
So first, I want to welcome you both in. Thank you so much for being here on Local Roots, and thank you for streaming with us on Queen City News Plus. So let's first talk about it. You have a lot of people who aren't from Charlotte.
That is true. That is true. We see anywhere from 50% of we impact about 150 new leaders a year in
Wow.
our programming with
Okay.
Leadership Charlotte. And I would say 50%
Are not from Charlotte.
are not from Charlotte. Maybe another, I'm not great with numbers, but every year there are people that literally show up in our programs and they've been here for 2 weeks.
Really? Wow.
And I applaud them. They have done their research before they even get to Charlotte, whether it's through their employer, which is our corporate community is absolutely amazing about plugging their people in and
Yeah.
supporting them.
Dr. Hinch, when we talk about what we see here in Charlotte, I think it's kind of like the funny thing when you say, hey, oh my goodness, you meet somebody who's actually from the city or from Charlotte.
Yeah.
Or people who have been here for 15, 20 years. But when we talk about being connected, kind of lay out for us what you kind of see from your lens and why it's kind of hard for people to feel a little plugged in.
Well, it is a city of newcomers,
Mhm.
and that's been going on for a while. Charlotte has grown in every decade since the railroads came in the 1850s, and it is not slowing down. It's speeding up. If you look at the list of 10 fastest growing cities in the U.S., almost every year we're in the top 10 someplace. One of the most moved to cities, according to a moving van company survey
Yeah.
recently. And that means that there are just a whole lot of new people who are kind of wandering around going, huh, what? And particularly when you're out of work, when you're
Mm.
not unemployed, but there's hours in the day when you're not sitting at the computer and not playing with the spreadsheet. How do you plug in? And one answer is to go to walk around Plaza Midwood or Noda or a place like that. Churches are real important, houses of worship. But the notion of a leadership cohort, that is really something that Leadership Charlotte has been building around Elizabeth and McKee's work for a long time here.
When we talk about Leadership Charlotte, let's get into it so people understand, what does this mean? Is this just for executives?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And that is one of the things we get the most points for, if you will. Leadership Charlotte's been around since 1978. Came out of a political science professor's heart and brain for needing more diverse leaders in our city. And he was Shelley Lyons. And in 1978, he's like, Charlotte needs one of these after visiting Greenville, South Carolina. So since 1978, we've had about 2,300 people come through our Leadership Charlotte class.
Mhm.
Since 2008, we've had approximately 1,200 come through our Encounter program. So what do those two things mean?
Mhm.
So the Leadership Charlotte cohort, which Tom mentioned, is definitely the place where you're going to do a great big deep dive into our city. Monthly meetings. Yesterday was Arts Day.
Mhm.
We were at the Gant. We were all around uptown looking at public art. We heard from Tom Gabbard with the Blumenthal. We heard from local artists, and they got to experience local artists. So think 10 months of that, whether it's Charlotte's Past, Present, and Future, Tom's signature event with us, to education, healthcare, government and politics, justice, arts, sustainability, community trusteeship.
And you started doing this as a one-day thing.
So that's the Encounter program geared towards newcomers, but also open to the newly curious, whether you've been here for a long time or
So
not.
that's still going on now.
That is still going on.
Okay.
That started in 2008. We do that twice a year,
Okay.
about 50 people each. And that is, think 30,000-foot view. But again, you're going to spend an hour and a half with Tom Hanchett at the beginning of that, taking a dive into the city's history. And from there, covering things like education, economics, environment, health and human services, and arts and culture.
Dr. Hanchett, when you meet new people here in the Charlotte area, what are some of the things they feel like are the frustrations of them feeling like, hey, you know what? It's kind of hard to meet people, kind of hard to fit in. I know we have a lot of great programs, as you mentioned, like the art museums, and we have a lot of culture here in our city, but people sometimes just feel a little isolated.
Yeah, and I've been here long enough. I came in 1981 originally, so that that I know that that's a need because people talk about it, and I kind of coach people to talk to other folks. My cultural background is in the Midwest where we don't talk to each other. At least it seems that way. I've learned the Charlotte question. The Charlotte question is, so where are you from? And even if you're from Charlotte, people will still, some you have something to talk about.
Yeah, that really is because you're just almost stunned when you meet somebody and you say, "Oh, you're from Charlotte." And like when I first met um oh Winston Robinson, when he's like, "Oh, I'm from here. I grew up here." And I'm like, "What? Really? Wow."
My husband's from here, but I've
Yeah.
lived here longer.
Right, right. Now, when you moved here, what year were you here?
I moved here in 1993 to finish my graduate degree. And I will say it took me 5 years to make a decision to make this place my community.
Really?
So, the mid-90s were, well, I don't know, there were tumbleweeds still rolling down Tryon Street, right? There were. Everything was like, and
Right.
everything shut down. It I just decided though, how do I want to be? Like, who do I want to be in my community and how do I want to be in my community? And so I sought volunteer activities. I ended up meeting people through those and it was an amazing experience.
Now, Charlotte is a place where you kind of have to make your fun. You have to make your connections.
Yeah.
And there are wonderful nonprofit volunteer opportunities. Second Harvest Food Bank,
Yeah.
It's
which
assistance
helps.
ministry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And Charlotte Folk Society, which has free concerts every month. And, you can go to that and you haven't lost anything because it's free. And maybe you meet somebody you want to talk to.
Yeah.
And amazing festivals. We have a wide array of cultural festivals, and it's a great way to interact with whether you go on your own, but just to interact with the different kinds of people that are in our city.
Mhm.
Tom also has an amazing tour down Central Avenue of eating places.
Yes.
All the Manolo's is on there, but El Pulgarcito is on there. What else is on there?
Check it out, History South,
Yes.
www.historysouth.org.
Explain so when they check it out, what you on the food under
Well,
the food
I'm not savvy in terms of monetizing anything. So History South is a website that's
Yeah.
free. There are no ads. But there are little capsule biographies of some of the restaurant and food people in town, histories of some of the neighborhoods here, about 8
Right.
different walking tours that you can take on your own. And those kind of things, they're not on billboards. Mine is one that I'm very familiar with, and I'm happy to tell you about it. But you kind of have to poke around in the city and get on social media and follow the chain of possibility. That's
Be
how you find the
curious.
neighborhood
Curious.
festivals.
Being curious and starting in your own neighborhood is a great place to start. It talking to your neighbors.
Yes. Kind of
And
reaching out.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to keep reaching out and keep poking. We have so many more things to talk about here on Local Roots. We're going to take a little bit of a break right now, but we'll be right back. We're also going to discuss kind of the myths and kind of the things to kind of be aware of if you just moved here to the Charlotte area, or if you feel like, you know what, you need to find a place to call home. Right back. I want to welcome you back into Local Roots. We're talking about getting plugged into the Queen City. And as we were just leaving our conversation, we were leaving it off with talking about some of the myths that we hear. So when people move here and they think about what organizations to join, like whether that's Leadership Charlotte or getting plugged in, some people feel like you have to be a big time executive or you got to be kind of a who's who person. Just kind of walk me through what person is a good fit.
Anybody can lead. I believe that. You know, I used to work at the McCall School of Business, and leaders are born and leaders are made. And in Leadership Charlotte, we work really hard to tap existing along with emerging leaders to bring them together to learn about each other. And the more you are in that relationship with other people, you're going to understand somebody else's point of view. That's going to lead to you being a better leader, you being a more connected person. And those are the people we need on boards, in politics, on leading community commissions. What the county and city both have commissions that are done, or I don't even know. Members are just you and me, right?
Because I mean, I've been on boards, and you sit there and you think it'd be kind of cool to be the chair, but I don't think I have what it takes.
You absolutely have what it takes.
But you kind of talk yourself out of it.
Yes.
You know, because you might see the leaders that come before you and go, wow, I don't know if I could do that, you know, or where can I learn that? Can you relate to what I'm saying?
Very much so. One of the things that I often say when I'm talking to Leadership Charlotte is that this city does not have the kind of entrenched old family elite that a city like, for instance, I hear Charleston has that.
Or
Richmond
Atlanta.
has that. And, you know, you had to be born in the right family 2 or 3 generations ago. Now, we do have folks that have been around a while that have their hands on what's moving forward. But basically, we're making it up. And we need you. We need new folks who have experiences. When people come to Charlotte, often they will go, well, I'm really grumpy because they don't have such and such that they have back home. And all right, that's your cue. Go ahead and make that happen. Figure out who you need to connect with and make that happen. And there's a history to this. Charlotte has always been led by newcomers. If you look back to the beginnings of the textile mills here, first mill guy was a guy named R.M. Oates, who came to town and partnered up with people here in Charlotte, built the first cotton mill. It's on Graham Street, 5th Street. Edward Dilworth Latta came here to sell men's pants, ended up with a chunk of land out at the edge of town, turned it into Dilworth, started the streetcar system. A fellow named Hugh McCall. Hugh McCall is often a guest at Leadership Charlotte. He's now in his 90s. Good golly. He helped invent interstate banking, built Bank of America as the first big coast-to-coast bank. Came here from Bennettsville, South Carolina. Family owned a cotton farm. Got to work at NCNB, North Carolina National Bank, and made history. Led our community.
Literally with that interstate banking. That's the shift for us.
I love that you said anybody can lead, because just sitting right here with you, to me, I'm even learning a lot. I think one of the questions that I get a lot of times is, how did you become on the board of trustees at the Mint Museum?
Oh, wow.
And to me, I love art. I'm just passionate about it, but I also love the fact of trying to be able to create art history for people who may not have ever been inside of a museum.
And I bet you went to events.
So to go to events to be able to kind of get acclimated with it. But I think that it's just, when you talk about people moving here to the city, you find something that you have a passion for. And as you said, Dr. Hanchett, it's like we have it here. You might just have to look a little and dig a little bit to find it.
Let's unpack the Mint Museum for you. I bet that you started going to the Mint Museum events.
Yes.
I bet that you showed up over and over and over again, and you introduced yourself to the people that were there, and they saw you. And suddenly, when you raised your hand and said, I want to do this, they knew you, they trusted you, you had a relationship with them.
Right.
And that's the equation.
Right.
That's the recipe. You start showing up in the rooms where you care the most. I love that you said grumpy, because I say a lot in Leadership Charlotte, pay attention to what, I won't say it that way, makes you angry. I have a foul mouth sometimes. Pay attention to what makes you angry, because that is probably the thing that you're willing to spend your time on and to make change, right? If you want something to change, find out if others care about the same things.
You listed out some of the organizations that were kind of top of mind for you, Dr. Hendrick. Can you run through any more for people watching right now of things, the organizations that are a little bit more inclusive, that are very, make you feel like, hey, we love people, we love hard workers, we love you.
Thing that comes first to mind is Civics 101. This is the League of Women Voters have been doing this for years and years and years, and it is an introduction to how government works here, and the ways that you can plug in as a board member on the planning commission or whatever. And so Civics 101, write that down, and that's a powerful one. There's also a number of leadership encouraging organizations. American Leadership Forum.
American Leadership Forum is a chapter here in Charlotte. They deal in multi-county, think geopolitical cross-pollination, if you will. So they look at our 14-county region and try to bring leaders together to create those relationships that would help us work together better.
Community Building Initiative is a group that I do some work with. I do some tours of the city for new leaders, and they're particularly looking at the needs of people plugging into understanding diversity and equity in our community. And a lot of people who are on boards who have to deal with the wide public beyond their own neighborhood find value in cbicharlotte.org.
Okay.
Janine Bryan is a fantastic leader of that organization. And they
hoping to have her on the show soon.
Good. Yes, that's wonderful.
Yes, and that's her shout out right there, Janine. We're going to take a break right now. So much more to come. We mentioned in terms of kind of a recipe to kind of getting plugged into the Charlotte community. The next thing we're going to really talk about too is if you don't want to be on a board and you just want to be able to meet some people and you want to be able to maybe be in some leadership roles and be around some fun people here in the Queen City, we're going to show you how to get plugged in. That's next. Welcome back into Local Roots. We're talking about how to get plugged in here into the Queen City area. And one of the things when you talk about leadership roles or getting plugged in, some people get a little scared when you start talking about board positions. And I say that because sometimes people feel like, well, I don't have the money to do this. I don't want to spend $1,000 to be part of this organization, but I still want to get plugged in. Let's talk about that a little bit as to how people can still feel connected.
Well, and if you consider how many different ways you can invest, investment isn't just money. Investing your talent, investing your time. So many organizations need time because maybe they don't have a huge staff. So if you could invest your time and your talent, that could make up for an investment of treasure, if you will. And there are lots of places that have young affiliate programs. The Mint has that, but there are others that have young affiliates. Even like WFAE NPR has a community board that is not at all a board of directors, but it does help.
And one thing just to point out with that I think is really important is when you talk about, I know this from the Mint being on the board, is for the YAMS, the young affiliates, is the yearly cost is $100. So you're going to all these events and meeting all these people, for something that is affordable. And so when you start getting plugged into those types of things, and Dr. Hendrick, I don't know if you have any that come to mind for you, but free talks. I think taking advantage of showing up to free events is a great way to learn and also connect.
Yeah, Charlotte Museum of History has regular free events. Levine Museum of the New South has regular free events. WFAE Public Radio has regular free events. You start going to those, and 2 or 3 down the line, you go, well, I've seen that person before, and I will ask them a Charlotte question. You remember the Charlotte question?
Where are you from?
Where are you from?
I love it.
But also our colleges and
Yeah.
universities have great things
Mhm.
going on. And I'm not going to
Let's
be
talk
able
about that.
to pop them off the top of
Yeah.
my head, unfortunately, but Johnson C. Smith, Johnson and Wales, UNC Charlotte,
Mhm.
Queen's University, all have regular events that are usually free and are, if not directly related to leadership,
Mhm.
at least directly related to our community.
With
These
Leadership
topics.
Charlotte, tell me a little bit as to what people should know if they're saying, you know what, I've watched Local Roots, you've now piqued my interest. I'm hearing that this is a great organization, but it is competitive.
It is competitive when we talk about the Leadership Charlotte class.
Okay.
So, and timing is everything, right? So, we only have a small window of applications for that class. It runs August until June. So, all of that application process happens between December and February.
What's the cost for it?
So, it's $4,000 for an at-large spot, and that's a 50% discount of what it actually costs to put somebody through. So the way the Leadership Charlotte program works is that we have 50% of our participants, so think maybe 25 or 26 people that are coming from local organizations. The other half are community leaders or people who are just ready to dive in,
Mhm.
who apply at large and are selected by our alumni.
And are you doing projects together? Do you have to
They
be super
do.
smart?
No. Well, I think you have to be super passionate, right?
Okay, there you go.
I
I
think
like
you have to be
passion.
super
Curious.
curious
Okay.
and willing to follow through what you say you'll do, right? Um and for those who don't have that much time to give, or and maybe your employer doesn't want you to have that much time,
Mhm.
it depends on where you are in your
Right.
life. The Encounter program, so our next encounter is April
And
23rd.
that's the one-day
That's a
program.
one day, like one and done.
Mhm.
Millennials love it.
Mhm.
I have, they just like the fast pace, and it
Mhm.
is fast pace.
Because you're learning about the history, you're kind of getting a kind of a civics lesson at the same time.
Yes.
Okay.
It is $500,
Mhm.
and there are scholarships
It's not very
available.
much.
Mhm.
It's
Well, when you say
think of a
scholarships, I think that's the
conference.
part that's too
Yeah.
that people like perk up and go, what does that mean, scholarship?
So scholarships are need based.
Okay.
And so we ask you to, once you say, hey, I'd like to have a scholarship, we ask you to give us some information. And then, as much as possible, we try to provide those funds. We don't give full scholarships because we do want to have people with skin in the game,
Right.
right? Show that you're willing to get involved. And I also say, don't let cost hold you back.
Mm.
Call us. On our website and through the application process, there are plenty of ways to get in touch with us. We will work with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so you think about a one-day program, what is that going to do for me? It's going to give you a
Uh,
map. It's
mm.
going to give you a map of the city, a map of our history, a map of what's happening right here and right now, and help you dive into how do you become more relational
Mm.
instead of transactional in your community. It's everybody falls into their bubble, right? Everyone goes to work and comes home, and especially if you're a newcomer and you've moved here for a job, work, home, repeat, work, home,
Yeah.
repeat. And then if you throw kids in, it you're having to do all those things. So we try to get people outside of their bubble. And then you meet other people that are also outside of their bubble,
Yeah.
and you begin to create a different bubble, which is really helpful.
Part of the Charlotte ethos is this plugging in. Your corporate leader, if you're working for a corporation, they need to plug you into the community. That's part of coming to Charlotte. And if you're part of a nonprofit, if you're part of a government agency, those connections are even more important here than they are most places. Charitable giving, community involvement is part of what has made this city a big city.
Yeah.
And if we had three things to remember, right? Three
Oh,
things.
you always have to do things in numbers because that's what people
One,
remember.
two,
1, 2,
three,
3,
right?
right?
So number one, that belonging is built. You don't just show up, right? But if you show up over and over and over again, you build that belonging, you build the relationship. Number two, understanding Charlotte's story is a huge step in leading. And so we've listed organizations that you can do that with. You can do that with Leadership Charlotte and our upcoming Encounter Charlotte program. But once you understand, once you become proximate, we have an alum, Eric Anderson, who says this: when you become proximate to an issue, it's the first step in understanding. You don't have to solve it. Understand it first. And that's the same thing with your city. Understand what's happening in Charlotte, and then you can lead. And then finally, number 3 is that leadership is not a title. If you're listening to this and you think I'm not a leader, well, you're wrong. Because if you want to lead, you can lead. It's not a title. It's about being willing to serve and share of yourself.
I feel so much more plugged in. Hopefully that everybody has enjoyed this episode of getting plugged into Charlotte. As we leave, Dr. Hanchett, real quick, give everybody your website.
HistorySouth.org. So where are you from? That's the Charlotte question.
Elizabeth Nye McKee.
Yes.
Where can people find you?
www.leadershipcharlotte.org. Leadership Charlotte, all one word,
Okay.
.org.
Okay. And is Nye your middle name?
It's my maiden name.
I love it.
Thanks.
way
It's
it rolls off,
I'm from
Elizabeth.
Lumberton, so it's a big name down there.
All right. Sounds good. Well, that's our episode for Local Roots. We want to thank you so much for streaming with us on Queen City News Plus. Hopefully you feel a little bit more plugged in right now. You got a lot of information on this episode, and we'll see you next time on Local Roots.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.